All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the June Keys Penguin Habitat. My name is Dana, and I'm joined on the beach by Michelle. And we both work here at the aquarium taking care of our Magellanic penguins. So we have 20 Magellanic penguins out in exhibit right now. And we're just about finishing up our feeding time. This is our afternoon feed for these birds, and it's pretty much their last feed of the day. And it looks like we have a free-for-all in the pool right now. And it looks like Shim. So Shim is one of our male penguins here at the aquarium. And we were just trying to feed him a little bit earlier. He hopped in the pool, and it looks like he did get that fish. Now what we're doing right now is we're actually feeding our birds, like I said earlier, and we feed them herring and capelin throughout the day. And herring is that large fish that Michelle has in her hand. It's a little bit larger, a little bit fattier, but they also get a slightly smaller fish, capelin, as well. And some of the birds prefer capelin, some of the birds prefer herring, some birds will eat both. It's kind of a little bit of getting to know the birds, getting to know what they like, what they don't like, because they all have different personalities. And there's about 20 different personalities in here, so sometimes feeding times can be very busy and very, very interesting. Now you also might have seen us a little bit earlier. We were actually marking off how many fish each individual penguin was eating. This helps us track how they're doing, if they're feeling well, if they're not feeling well. We can get a lot of information by seeing kind of how they're eating and the trends of how they're eating over a couple of days or even a week or even months. Now right now, some of our penguins aren't really eating. Some are eating more than others because we're kind of coming up into a period called our molting season for our birds. Some of our birds have already gone through their molting and completely molted their feathers, and some are kind of starting that process, and some are actually bulking up, which means they're eating a lot of fish right now, getting ready for that process. Now with many species of birds, they're going to be molting throughout the year, or they'll be molting at a specific time, but what our birds here do, at least these Magellanic penguins, is they go through something called a catastrophic molt. Now that sounds really bad, but what happens is basically they lose all of their feathers at once. They lose all of their feathers at one time. Now that can be kind of stressful for the birds, and they do look a little bit awkward and kind of grumpy up on deck. But basically what happens is they're going to bloat, they're going to kind of fill up with water, they're going to look a little bit chubbier, and they're going to push all of those feathers out at once. And that can be kind of stressful, which is why we see our birds eat a lot of food right before they go into their molt, because it takes a lot of energy. So they do need to bulk up with a little bit more weight and a little bit of extra energy before they go into their molting season. But once they come out of their molt, their feathers are nice and fresh, and they look very, very well. Now, their feathers are very important to their survival, not just here in our environment here, but out in their wild or natural habitat as well, because they are birds, but they don't really fly. They fly through the water, essentially. So they're going to be spending a lot of their time in the water. They also go through a migration season as well, where they're spending most of their days, if not all of their days, out in the water searching for food. So their feathers kind of work as like a waterproofing for them, essentially. So their skin, if their feathers are working properly, is actually staying completely dry because their feathers are ratcheted. They interlock with each other, and they trap air bubbles in their feathers, and that's going to what helps them, keeps them buoyant, and it keeps them nice and warm in slightly colder waters. Now we're just kind of keeping an eye on some fish that are still floating around in the exhibit. Typically we'll hand them fish, but sometimes they'll take them into the water of their own nature, or sometimes we throw fish into the water for them. But we always like to keep an eye on kind of who's getting the fish and how much they're eating. Like I said, it helps us track their weights and how they're feeling, how they're not feeling. If they don't eat for a couple of days, we might know that something could be wrong with them, and we might want to take a closer look at them. Now we're going to be finishing up with our feeding in here, but thank you all so much for joining us here at our June Keys Penguin Habitat. Like I said, my name is Dana and this is Michelle. We are a nonprofit organization, so just by coming here, learning about our animals, watching them eat, watching them be slightly goofy, you guys are actually directly helping all of our animals here. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day here at the aquarium.